Hello.
Hey.
You're not Aaron.
No, I'm a listener, and I've somehow guessed the correct URL for the recording here.
That would be fun just to have kind of some randos on, like just people just if you
Oh,
can
just a
guess
call
the
in.
URL,
Yeah.
put a URL out there with some hints or something, and just whoever guesses it gets to come on the show. That'd be fun. So you're Matt Swanson, right? I'm saying that all right?
Yes. So I'm a software developer guy, kind of a big Rails guy, and sort of perennial, mostly technical reply guy on Twitter. And I heard that Aaron was going to be out, and said, you know, in the words of Aaron, you can do literally anything. So I
That's
messaged you
right.
and said, all right, here's why I should be the guest host in Aaron's absence, and here I am today.
Yeah, you could just do stuff. You are the embodiment of that, and you sent a nice a list of topics that was interesting. So that was it. Yeah, and we've been trying to get you on the show for a little while, just in general. So it's kind of worked out. I know. I think Aaron knew you before the show. I didn't know you before the show. But yeah, Rails guy, which we have a lot of Rails crossover, and I feel like we talked about this before. But Laravel and Rails at this point are kind of similar-ish ecosystems, I think, compared to the JavaScript guys. So yeah, and you're a B2B entrepreneur also, with a
Sure, I am.
startup,
Yeah,
right?
so yeah, I'm the CTO at Arrows, and Arrows, we make tools for companies that run their business on HubSpot. So we kind of build tools that sit between HubSpot, like your CRM data, and then your customers. So if there's external stuff that you need to collect from your customers, whether that's like stuff in the sales process, stuff in onboarding, that's like where you can use our tools, and then everything sort of syncs back to HubSpot. So yeah, it's definitely very B2B, and even within the B2B world, it is like we are specifically targeting, at least for the moment, HubSpot
One platform.
customers. So yeah.
Yeah. And is it how long has it been around? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so Arrows has been around for around 4 years. I
Okay.
joined 3 years ago. I was the first engineer, and then ended up switching into CTO role. But it's always funny, like, what is the CTO of like a 10-person company? And
Right.
it's really mostly still just doing engineering work, and then every once in a while you have to like fill out a SOC 2 security form or something.
Right. Yeah. 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 Everybody's a VP and that whole situation, right?
Yes.
Um,
I'm head of engineering, and there's one person or whatever.
right.
But yeah,
That's still
we've
good.
got
Yeah.
a
Nice.
we've got a team of three, including myself. So yeah, that's kind of my day to day.
I've already talked on the show about how they stole my spot over at HubSpot, so we don't have to get into that again.
Yes.
But you guys are you're on the full platform risk there, just built on HubSpot. There we go. Hopefully they don't
Yeah. I mean, I think it's
Sherlock
I
you.
think it's kind of interesting. I mean, if you want to talk about that a little bit,
Yeah.
definitely. Like, I think people will say like, "Oh, building on other people's platform is quite risky," and the I was kind of in that same bucket as well. But um, especially our CEO Daniel has done a really good job, I think, of like de-risking that by
Mm,
doing some things that I think are maybe um, not obvious to like developer brained people. And so like HubSpot has invested in our company, and we have a
mm,
bunch of relationships with HubSpot, and we're like sort of like launch partners for a bunch of new platform stuff they're building. So like, yes, in a way, we are like sort of tied to HubSpot, but um, there are things you could do where it's not like, oh yeah, HubSpot is just gonna crush us. There's ways that we can have like a win-win outcome where
right.
we're building stuff for HubSpot that they can't get to or won't get to, and then obviously there's natural end games of HubSpot can acquire you. We get to use some of HubSpot's distribution, and they have like a marketplace and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. And so that's something that is kind of like an interesting flip to the platform risk. It's like we have built a little bit of like a moat on the platform with all the like relationships that we're building that take time to do.
Yeah. I mean, obviously if practical implementation of getting Sherlocked means that you just get acquired, then that's
Yeah.
not a terrible outcome, right? And if they, are one of the investors, that's obviously helpful. And I mean, I'm not like you still have platform risk, but also you're buying something with platform risk, which is like inherent marketing. What not just the marketplace, but just that you are basically can advertise around them.
Sure.
They're going to
Yep.
send you customers. All that kind of stuff is all tons of stuff that when you just have, hey, we're a new app in this space and we don't have any connection to anything, that you have to do all that yourself also. So it is a
Yeah.
huge head start for sure.
And for us, it was like a very good like focusing element too, because we can sort of when we started, we originally were like, okay, we have to build CRM integrations. Like we'll probably start with HubSpot, and then we'll do Salesforce, and then we'll do like the long tail of like the 15 other close and
Right.
I think Intercom has some kind of CRM product, and eventually we just said like there's enough of a market just in HubSpot for a solution that is really like, we are the best option if you have HubSpot. Like we have the deepest integration. Right. All the marketing could kind of get focused around that, and obviously that could still change in the future. And we're always looking to see like when's the right time to sort of switch and bring like Salesforce into the fold. But so far we haven't hit the ceiling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have to go too deep into this, which might be touchy territory, but there is like, once you bring Salesforce in, now that creates disincentives on the HubSpot side potentially in some ways, right? Or creates tension in that relationship potentially. So there is that whole angle to things too. And certainly HubSpot's so huge now that like as a small company, there's more than enough revenue there for you to be satiated for a while before you're like, oh, we've tapped out the HubSpot market and there's no more growth there, so we have to go elsewhere. You're obviously nowhere near that. So I think that all makes sense.
And there's all kinds of like interesting dynamics there too of like when we work with HubSpot on stuff, is HubSpot our customer, or are we like the customer of HubSpot? Like for some things we're doing, like we are sort of like trying to sell HubSpot on something, and for some things that HubSpot's doing, like, oh, we are like a top app partner building on their platform. So it's kind of flipped, and it's like they need to sort of like cater to what we want and like what our challenges are. And so it's just been interesting for me kind of working against this like big platform thing. And definitely when you come from more of a developer background, you're just like, well, it does, what I can do with the platform is what's listed in the public, API docs. And it's like, well, there's a whole world of, there's people underneath the company layer that you can, message on LinkedIn, that you can get on a call with, that, and all these companies are all also software companies that are looking for beta customers and doing customer research and customer feedback and reviews and all that stuff.
Yeah, if you've never been involved with like a big, huge platform like this, I do think there's a lot more there than people might think. Like even the API, like my brother has a consultancy and they work pretty much exclusively with this nonprofit, basically CRM called Blackbaud, and it's like a multi-billion-dollar thing. And like the API, it's like, oh, they have an API, but really there's all this other stuff that's like not even documented. And like, there's non-documented API and there's all these other side avenues. And like, it's like all stuff they know because they've worked on it for like 15 years or 20 years now. So people come to them because they know all this, the ins and outs of it on this crazy deep level, deeper than even the in-house developers do a lot of the time. But there's a lot there that you can kind of build on top of that's more than just what's publicly shown. If you just take a 10-second look at it, it's like, no, there's usually more just actually there. Then there's like you're saying, like once you get in with the people and things, there's all different types of possibilities beyond just what the API allows, sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's definitely frustrating. And like you see the stories of like, I mean, I know a while ago there was that guy that like made a Reddit app and it got shut down or whatever because they were blocking the API or something. And I don't know, like I think all the developers are like, yeah, this sucks, this is bad or whatever. And just having the experience that I have had for the past couple of years here at Arrows, it was like, oh, I wonder if he like had made any inroads with like talking to the individual people within Reddit that are like on the platform team, or there is probably like a business relationship here that could have been made so that that wasn't some big thing. And obviously, like, I don't know the details, and maybe they went down that path and said no, but I think it's just interesting thinking about it from that angle of like, at the end of the day, there is like another developer within this megacorp that is like the person that is pushing code to the API that can choose to allow you or block you, and
Right.
and you can always go update a database row and add an override flag for your account if some partner manager tells them that
Right.
you're supposed to be allowed.
Yeah, I think that there's also just, again, like, generally speaking, B2B is a lot better than B2C for all these things. I think the incentives, a lot of it comes down to incentives. Like in that Reddit case, let's call it, like, Reddit's incentives aren't really to have much to do with like allowing another app that basically does the same exact thing as their app, but removes ads and like does makes a nicer quote unquote experience, although not necessarily in the mind of Reddit. It's not a nicer experience, right, of the owners of Reddit. So whereas like in a B2B space where you're adding functionality that the core platform doesn't provide, that's a benefit to the core platform. So then that side, the risk is more just, like, is it such a benefit that they're like, oh, we should just be doing this ourselves? But even there, again, it's like maybe they acquire you or whatever. But whereas in the B2C case and the Reddit type case, or even Twitter had the same thing, right? Where even before Elon, they were kind of poo-pooing the external clients because it's like, well, really, we just want everybody on our clients so that we have all the metrics and all the stuff we need to properly manage a B2C type app. So even though it sucks from a user perspective, it's like it's more understandable. So it's like, when you make those choices, like, and that's a choice you just make right at the beginning. It's like, hey, am I going to be sort of flowing with the company down the river, or am I going against the stream here a bit? So
for sure. And like you said, B2C versus B2B, it's like, I think people hear the pithy quote of like, don't build on someone else's platform. And it's like, well, the first point of the flow chart is probably like, are you building like a consumer app? Are you building a B2B app? And I think the answers can vary wildly. So
and I mean, there's just there's all the trade-offs there. We could go down that, but I think let's jump into some of these topics because we got covered that angle enough. So let's do, I don't know, which one do you want to start with? This is your list. It's your show today.
My show today. Let's talk about what I called the hidden fallout from the WordPress drama. So
let's go back to that WordPress, baby.
WordPress. There's some drama. I've never done anything with WordPress, so like I don't particularly care, and maybe it's more of a PHP thing because PHP is powering WordPress. But I kind of got to thinking like, Automatic, which is the company that owns WordPress, like they for a while in like the early and mid 2000s were like growing very quickly and sort of like acquiring a bunch of these companies and services. And so I was like, oh, I wonder what maybe the second order effects here of like WordPress sort of like losing, brand cachet, potentially like going into financial issues. I don't really know how this lawsuit is going to, play out. Like, are they actually going to be like losing millions of dollars and have to like start, selling off assets or something?
Right.
And the one that I sort of came across that I thought was interesting to talk about, and I wanted to get your take, was Gravatar.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
So
I haven't heard anybody talk about Gravatar at all.
Yeah, I mean, so Gravatar was started in like the early 2000s, and it was actually started by Tom Preston Warner, who like sold it and then started GitHub like the next year. So like, pretty good run there for Tom. So he sold it to Automatic in 2007, and they kind of like merged in the WordPress avatars. So this like got pretty big. Like, it was used on Stack Overflow, which is probably where all the developer people sort of got exposed to it. And then obviously if you're building an app and you want to have profiles and you don't want to build your own profile upload, you can use Gravatar. So it got pretty big. I found a stat that in 2010 they were serving 20 billion requests per day
Wow.
So a lot of stuff.
Bigger than I would have thought.
Yeah, like, every sort of WordPress blog that has comments that
Right.
has that is probably making up a big portion of it. But yeah, like you said, like Gravatar is kind of dying after they
Yeah.
acquired it. You had to like make a WordPress account. For a while, there's like a privacy kind of backlash because people were using this for like forums where you maybe had like a username. And if you remember, like this is back in like the earlier times of the internet where people were not so uh, you know free with using their real names on things. So if you had some like developer forum and I'm like PHP dude 95, but
Right.
someone uses the Gravatar and then finds out that, well, if you like crack all these MD5 hashes, you can find out my email address from my
Right.
username. There was so I think it's just kind of slowly been dying. And so like I could see this being something that eventually gets shut down. Like I did look to see like what is Automatic doing with Gravatar, and they have kind of pivoted, and it is still like under active development. They've kind of made it into like an about me type thing where you can have like your little like one page profile site, and now I think they're adding like some payment type like coffee jar tip stuff. So I think they're kind of going down like a link tree, maybe like a light content thing, which I guess makes sense for them because there's so many people that have these. But like it's kind of going away from the original purpose of like, yeah, I just want to like have people's avatars in my product.
Yeah, like yeah. But yeah, that's a whole, I mean, just even having avatars is sort of an interesting thing. I'm never sure quite what to do with that in apps I build because it's like, don't really love it sometimes. It's like people don't expect, right? It like shows up in places people wouldn't expect their image to be potentially. And then yeah, sometimes so it's just weird. I do feel like there's still a need for this though. Like even just doing the things where it's like their initials or whatever. I don't know. I don't like any of the solutions basically around this. Like I don't like people's stuff showing where they don't expect it to be. I don't like initials. I've kind of gone a lot of times just to using just the name or whatever the username is or something like that and forget any type of image, although obviously the image there is sort of nice to break things up. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think some of it too is like it's nice when you can like onboard somebody to your software and it like is easy to brand for your business. And I think we're going to probably talk about like a B2B case here for Gravatar because I think obviously like in a consumer app, everyone's going to have their Facebook profile picture and their Twitter profile picture and their Blue Sky profile picture or whatever. That's kind of just like a core feature of that. But like if you connect to Sentry for your error monitoring, like do you want to see the face of like the people at your company to know? And I think there is definitely some use for that. Like just being able to see like, oh, I'm on an issue, and like if you look on Sentry, it can show you like who's viewed this, and it's like, well, if I can see the little picture of Ian's face there to know like, oh yeah, Ian's looked at it, like that's probably better than another piece of text or like you said the initials. So so we were kind of looking for this for our stuff too because like we have people that are using this and using arrows for like a sales tool type thing, and so they've got like a prospect, right? And I know their email, I know their name, I know their title, I know their company. I was like, well, there must be a way to like get their like LinkedIn picture, right? Because that's kind of, I think that's sort of like what the B2B world has for Gravatar. It's like you have your LinkedIn profile, and that's like where your social presence for your business has gone. So I started looking for this, and it's like really the sketchiest of the sketchy APIs out there. Like I think LinkedIn has basically locked it down so that none of their APIs like will give you this data. And so what you're really doing is you're like buying like credits to, obviously once you start an API that has credits, I think
it's big trouble already.
Big trouble, right? Like I'm like, ooh, let's make it hard to calculate how much this is actually costing. So there's several of these apps, and I think they're mostly used for kind of scammy-ish stuff of like cold outreach and.
These are third party, right? Because you can't get it all from LinkedIn, right?
You can't get it from LinkedIn.
They're just scraping or whatever, yeah.
So yeah, basically someone has scraped, legally or illegally, like a big database of LinkedIn stuff, and now they are like selling you, queries against this. And
7-year-old photos of somebody or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, and so I think, better than nothing. And like if you go even deeper, there's like, some of these things will be like, oh, well, if you have like a Google Workspace account, then you have like a profile picture in there. And if you open your Gmail client and I type in your email address, like, and I wait 5 seconds, like sometimes a picture pops up that is your, that's one of those that's like even older than 7 years probably.
Right.
Like no one knows how to change this thing. Like why is this?
I don't even know. I always think about that. I have like a 10-year-old picture in mine. I'm like, how do I change this
I was
Gmail
when I was
image?
emailing you today, I was like, oh, I wonder what Ian's profile thing is there. I was like, this I don't think this is what he would want in like a B2B context to be
probably not
to be used. So I don't know. Like I think there's something useful here. And so I just kind of want to get your like initial reaction to like, how might you build this? Like, how would you kickstart it? How could you pay for it? Because I don't think, like a free tool that is potentially serving like billions of images a day is really going to work. So what's your take on?
But it has to be free, right? I think if it's not free, it's useless, because how do you get all the images? How do you get people to give you their images? Like they're not going to pay to do it.
Yeah.
Even
so
business people.
I think you could potentially kickstart it by doing what these, sketchy companies are kind of doing, or you just use one of them, right? And like, okay, for $10,000 startup costs, I either like buy a copy of their database or like I scrape all of, LinkedIn, myself. I think there's maybe like an angle where you could like really reduce the friction to like changing your avatar, of like making it like kind of an email based thing of like, okay, I'm just going to email you a link. You click that link and then, we've signed a token in there, versus like making an account. But
I think
it's
LinkedIn
tough.
should just do it. I think that the solution is LinkedIn should do this. Like give me a way to get anybody's image who's, obviously could opt out, blah, 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 all that stuff. But like LinkedIn is the place that people are willing to do this sort of thing, right? Like that's where the normal business people are already, they're there and they are willing to do some stuff on LinkedIn because this is the one spot on the internet that they will do this type of business social media thing. I think getting them to do it anywhere else is going to be super hard to get the like critical mass of people.
Yeah.
And then if you could just go the route that there's already the apps that do that, right? It's like, I could scrape every LinkedIn profile, but then it's going to get old really fast. And I'm probably on dubious legal ground, I assume, and all that. So I don't know. I think that there's like this need for this global sort of representation system of some type to exist. But I also think that's one of these things where like, in my apps I've thought about a lot. It's like, and we did show them for a while and we still can, but I don't love it. It's just like, I don't know, you have people who like, you just don't want you. Like I'm sending in a support ticket and my face is there and like, does that impact how I get support, right? Or whatever. And so, you have people with different concerns in that regard. And so I don't know, it's like has to be opt-in, but it also has to be updated. And I don't know. I think it's a really hard one. Then to figure out how to make money on top of that. I've always approached it more from the angle of like, how do you do something that doesn't require an actual image, but is better than the initials? Like, and conveys useful information in some way. Like, how do you have an avatar in your app that does something useful with that space, that makes it like recognizable somewhat to a person, or at least in a thread of like messages or something, that it stands out that different people are saying different things, even if it's not like, oh, I recognize Bob directly. You recognize Bob in this message thread, that this is the same person doing these same posts. And maybe it gives you some information about them, like is it like some kind of graph kind of thing that conveys something, or I don't know, but like it just seems like a place that could use data that is usable in some way.
What we've kind of landed on is at the moment is we're doing kind of like the initial type thing, but what we're doing is like taking the domain from your email address and using that to get like your company logo and brand color. And so there are some other services for this and other,
even that's
similar.
Are they
similar
good services? I've never found a good service for that. I've wanted that, and so it's like, it's kind of weird.
There's
like
a couple
Clearbit or whatever, but even that's sort of weird.
Yeah, and
and super expensive.
Clearbit was acquired by HubSpot, so all their stuff
Uh,
is kind of gone into maintenance mode.
uh,
But there's a couple. We use a tool that's called Brand Fetch, which is just an
mhm.
API where you give it a domain, and
Okay.
same kind of thing, right? Like, so they scrape your your website, and then they look for, like, open graph tags, or they find your
Mm,
favicon or whatever, and then, like, that's your logo. Then they try to find, like, a higher resolution version of your logo, and then from there you can sort of extract what the colors are, and that gives you, and it's pretty good for most
yeah.
cases. The interesting thing with that is that then Brand Fetch themselves has, like, here's your company page with your official brand colors. If you want to, like, claim this, you can come and claim it, and sort of update it. And
Yeah.
so I think there's some model there, but so that's what we do is then we can like either put the company logo, like, kind of next to your initials. We can like put a circle that is red if you're from Netflix or whatever, and blue if you're from Microsoft or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. There's kind of, like, not a great way to do this, and hard problem.
This is kind
If you're gonna pitch LinkedIn on this, like, what do you think that pitch would be?
I think, I mean, they're just, I think it's so hard in that, like, LinkedIn's so gigantic that what can you
Yeah.
possibly pitch them that's going to move their needle, right? But I mean, it continues their ubiquity and their dominance in the sort of social B2B. So I would think that you could imagine um, that would be good for them, especially because they do that stuff where it's like, I'm hiring. They
Yeah.
put the little things in the
The banner.
avatar, right? Little messages. I'm looking for a job. I'm hiring. So if that just follow you, like, whatever, I'm on Blue Sky, and now my avatar, because it's connected to LinkedIn, says I'm looking for a job, like, that could be kind of cool potentially. Or again, you may not always want
Yeah,
that. You may want
it could go
that.
the other way, right?
Could go
Like,
the other
oh,
way, right? Yeah.
I'm in our, like,
So
project management tool, and suddenly my boss has got a I'm
looking
looking
for
for
work.
work badge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah. I mean, what about some of the other tools? See, I've the one I hadn't thought about Gravatar too much, but like the one I actually use is Day One. I don't even know why Automatic owns Day One, but I like Day One, and I hate that Automatic owns it. I think I have it encrypted in theory, that it's encrypted on my end, but who the heck knows? It's all just based on the trust of the developer, which there's
Hmm.
now very little. But there's not anything really good to replace it either. So there's, like, Day One, there's Askimet, or however you say that. They're like spam,
The spam
anti
one. Yeah.
blog post spam tool thing, which there's also another thing, kind of like Gravatar, that nobody ever really tried another pass at. It's like, well, there's Askimet, and it was sort of okay, and we just went with that. But I
Yeah,
think there's a sort of a place
I
for that
know
too.
that Gumroad is building something similar. That's like an API that uses, LLMs to,
Mhm.
like, flag content either for spam or, things to be reviewed. And that one seems a little bit more like, I think that probably just fades away, right?
All right.
Um, I think it made more sense for a blog platform back in the day when, like, spam was, like, the number one problem with, like, blog comments, right? And
Yeah.
I think that one's probably going away. Some of these, journal ones, I think, I don't know. It does seem like it's like there's a pretty big market for apps like that. So I guess I'm curious, like, you're just on it still? You're on Day One still because uh, you've got everything there. Like, so maybe
Yeah.
the play there is, like, if you're one of these other competitors, it's like, you should be building export import stuff and setting up landing pages and marketing stuff for people that are migrating from
I
that.
would think so. Yeah. I haven't even looked too much. I mean, Apple actually has a journal app now. But I think it's only on the phone, which I usually use it on desktop. And I'm sure that there are a million other competitors. I don't know. Last time
Yeah.
I looked through, which was a while ago, they all, I don't know. They just didn't give you that confident sort of vibe. It's like, I don't know if I want to use this. I'm sure there's some good ones out there. I haven't, like, thoroughly researched it, but yeah, the way I use it too is, like, I don't write in it every day, but it's like when something cool happens with the kids or something like that, I'll just put a note in there, and every once in a while I'll kind of go back through. But I don't know. I mean, whatever. I'm not keeping anything crazy secret, so in my particular case, I don't really care. I'm not, like, not holding my deepest, most inner thoughts, like I'm sure it
Yeah.
is for some people, but Yeah, I don't know. When you just destroy your trust on this level, it's like every little, just the tentacles of that reach everywhere.
Yeah. And I think it's hard too because like there's another play that you could, run that I'm thinking of, like the pinboard guy that like bought he like bought one of the apps that it was replacing or something after it shut down. But it's like I think at this point I don't know that anyone is too keen to like enter a business negotiation with with Matt Mullenweg and be like, oh yeah, sure, we'll just like, it doesn't make any sense for us to have this journal app. We'll like, sell it to you and you can, be the new steward of it.
Yeah, I think that's gonna have to wait probably until he's forced to sell some things. He's coming to you, or he's gone, and then you deal with the next people or whatever. But yeah. All right. Enough of that. What's up here? So another thing you had was this idea. I thought this was a cool topic idea. Of the idea of like this sort of indie hacker, bootstrapper, target salary, let's say of like 10,000 a month, which is kind of like hey, if I can get to 10,000 a month, I'm doing pretty good here, right? And so yeah, what's your take on that? And then we can kind of riff there.
Yeah. So let me like start with like kind of a tangential story here. And so like a few years ago, like I got kind of annoyed about stocks. Like I think everyone that sort of works with computers at some point has like gone back and done the calculations of like how rich would I be if I had just bought like Google at IPO, or like
Right.
instead of spending $2,000 on like a MacBook, like why didn't I just buy like $2,000 of Apple stock and now I'd have $20 million. And then like
I had Apple stock in 2000. I sold it for like $7,000, and I was like, I'm the king of the world. This is amazing.
Exactly. And like,
Shouldn't have sold.
for me recently, I like I used to listen to this really old podcast, and the guy on there would just talk about like, I'm buying Tesla stock, and it was like $20, right? And
Right.
so one of those of like, I listened to this guy like almost every week, just be like, you should buy Tesla stock, and I just never sort of did it, right? And so like, yeah, Netflix and Nvidia and all these kind of like very frothy tech stocks, and you're like, I feel like I should have known.
I'm in the mix. I should have known. I know
Yeah,
about all these things. Yeah.
And so like I kind of got bummed out about this, and then but what was helpful for me was like kind of step back and reframe. And so I thought like, okay, what did I do instead? And like what I did was like, okay, I just invested in like my work 401k, and that goes into an index fund. And so I opened up like Vanguard because I was like, well, I don't actually know like what is in here, right? Like I know it like it tracks the S&P 500, right? But like what is the allocation of these stocks? And so like if you go to Vanguard right now and you look up like the holdings, what you'll see is like, oh, actually this is like 7% Apple, 7% Microsoft, 6% Nvidia, 4% Amazon, 3% Meta. So it's like, oh, I actually
invested in there.
I actually do own like a significant chunk of stock in these companies. And like now obviously it doesn't give you the returns like if you bought Google at the IPO, but like I had in my mind that like I don't have anything in like tech stocks. Like I need to like go out and like buy like Cloudflare shares like today.
Well, that's a good idea. You should do that, but that's
yes, of course. Hashtag investor. So obviously it doesn't go up, but now I can feel like I'm not completely like missing out when it's like Apple's stock is like soaring 15%, and at the same time like I didn't also like lose a bunch of money because like I picked Dell or something that goes out. And this is kind of a roundabout way of getting to the point here. But yeah, like the reason I told this is like I had another one of these kind of like reframes lately about like indie hacking and this idea that like you should build your own SaaS product, and like there's a milestone in the community that is like you get to 10,000 MRR, and then suddenly like your life is like better in all regards, right? This is like the ideal dream. And what I'm about to say I think is very specific to like people working in the US, and I know that like there's a bunch of indie hacking stuff that is from other portions of the world where having like 10,000 US dollars a month is like a huge amount, like more than people make in a year in a month. But my kind of like my shift on it was like, if you're a competent developer that can like build and run your own SaaS product, like a salary of 10K MRR is like actually not really that much in the current like US job market.
Yeah.
So I tweeted something that was like the easiest way to get 10K MRR is like to just go get a cushy remote software job.
Right.
because 10K MRR is multiplied by 12, it's 120K ARR, and we just call that a annual salary. And so
Right.
if you're like grinding it out to try to get 10K MRR, like you could just go get like even like a mid-level job for like $120,000 in the US. And I'm not talking about like some elite like Amazon, Facebook jobs that are giving you like
Sure. Tons of
$500,000 in
stock
total
and yeah.
comp, and like you have to like grind on like lead code interviews for 6 months. Like
Right.
there are hundreds of these jobs in like every city in America, and
Yep.
there you can work remote. You can get a lot of the like work-life balance stuff that I think people sort of throw in as like the great benefits of the indie hacking stuff. So I'll pause there. What
Yeah, yeah. I think that makes sense. I mean, I think it's like um it's even it's even worse than that in the sense that when you make 10K a month at a job, you just have taxes, which is like you would have anyway. And that's kind of it. And then obviously your living expenses. But 10K in business income is not the same thing, right? Because you have most likely other expenses. So you don't even have the same take home as someone making 10,000 a month in salary, because you probably have some marketing expenses and you have servers and you have whatever, all the things. If you have even a part-time employee or contractors or whatever, so you're going to be making less than that. Now the counter argument is like if you got to 10K, you could probably get to 50K,
right.
which I think is part of the appeal of like the 10K number. It's like, yeah, anybody can kind of sell $1,000 or something. Like that's doesn't necessarily prove that much, but $10,000 or something is starting to get towards like, okay, like that sort of proves that this is a viable business. And if you can get it to that, you could probably get it to the next phase. But yeah, what did you have to do to get there? I mean, I think that's like a whole thing that there's lots of lying that goes on about, the amount of work involved. And definitely if you could just show up at your job and work 9 to 5 and be checked out on the weekends and have no worry, not a care in the world, versus never being off a minute essentially, and always thinking about the job essentially, and working every weekend and all those things. You're sacrificing a lot, you're trading off a lot. So yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I think a lot
not
of these
one-to-one.
things, like you said, are when you drill into them more, it is more of a trade-off, or like it's not exactly all like rosy.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you're if you see people that are like, well, I own my own business, like I can take a vacation whenever I want and just like go sit on the beach or whatever. It's like I think a lot of these people in reality are like, well, you also need to bring your laptop because you're on call if
Right.
the servers go down. Versus like if you just work at a job, it's like you have unlimited, if you're working the standard tech job, right? Like you have unlimited vacation, you have flexibility to go like pick up your kid after school at 4 o'clock if you want to work another hour at the end of the day. And so
Yeah, now that there's remote work for a lot of jobs, even without that, but especially with it, and just general tech jobs outside of like the pure startup environment being not too much of the grind house at this point, pretty much normal jobs with normal-ish hours, generally speaking. I definitely think by far most people are way better off just having a job. Like most people should not try to start a company, should not try to start a software company. You're not at the beginning anymore. There's a million competitors in every space. So I think most people are just better off. Like, I don't think that was always true, but I think now it's like quality of life wise, I don't even think it's close. Like, I think it's way more, you're way better off with a decent job than starting a business.
It's not to say that like you shouldn't do this, or like if you're interested, or you have that itch, or like you are an entrepreneurial person, like you're wrong or anything. It's just I think the pendulum has shifted a little bit, and I think like jobs are just like underrated on social media, right? And so like I just kind of want to put out there that like it's fine to just like be an employee and like have a job, and like you can have like a really fulfilling career. You can have a good work-life balance. You can make wealth that improves your position in life. And obviously maybe it's not the uncapped upside of being a founder, but the thing that kind of got me thinking about this more was like someone had tweeted recently, there's like, hey, I've been like grinding like the indie hacker thing for like 15 years or something, and like nothing has taken off. And it's like, if you would have literally just worked a job for those 15 years and like put that in your retirement fund, it was like you would have between like, 1.5 and like $3 million, right? Like and so it's like, oh, it's great that people have some exit, but like that's what you're getting at the end. And I don't know, I think there's a lot more to it than people think, and people get FOMO, and they feel jealous of people.
What sells,
out there,
right? Like if I'm selling the indie hacker lifestyle because I sell a course on it, or I sell whatever the angle is, right, for the person. Yeah, like fight the man. You don't want to be beholden. They're just going to have layoffs anyway, all that stuff. But the reality is, like, you're way, way less likely to ever get laid off at a job than it is for your business. You start to go out of business. Like, that's just way more likely to happen. That you go out of business.
To never take off, is probably the most likely.
Right. To essentially go out of business on some level, whether it's it never gets off the ground at all, or you get to 5,000 a month and you can't really make it work after 2 or 3 years. Like, it's just, those are not the people. Those people aren't there on social media either, in the sense of like, people who made it work and are there, whether you're Mark Cuban, right, and you're like, okay, billionaire, or even like myself, where it's like, I've been doing it 20 years and I've made it work, right? But like, the people who didn't make it work aren't there talking about how they didn't make it work, right? Like, they may post about it once or twice, but they're not going to be there saying, don't do this, right? They're just it didn't work and they moved on with their lives. But that's obviously the vast majority of people who try it. And so there's a huge risk for sure. And there's a ton of opportunity costs to doing it.
There's this kind of like really pernicious sentiment online around this stuff. And it's not exclusively like indie hacking. It's kind of all the like sort of get rich quick influencer, like this is the new economy type thing. And it's like, it's the difference between like anyone can do it and everyone can do it. And like those things sound the same or like very similar, right? And it's like everyone can do it. Like, yes, like any person could do this. Any person could become a YouTuber, from their office, or they could start an AI app that makes $100,000 a month or whatever. But it's not the case that like so that's, and I get them mixed up even as I'm saying here. So that like anyone can do that, but not everyone can do that, right? Like, because truly,
there can only be so many Mr. Beasts.
There can only be so many, right? Yeah. And these are, there's power laws and kind of like winner take all marketplace dynamics here and some of these things. And, just in general too, it's like not everyone has the, set of skills. Like you could probably learn those skills, but it's not, I think it's sort of something that people confuse. It's like, anyone can do this because I did this. It's like, well, that doesn't mean that everyone can.
Well, especially I would say my kind of advice in this area tends to be that it's, since most of this listener base is programmers or tangent to programming, is if you're not interested in the sort of business aspect of things, that's a good decider. Like if you're really more interested in the code and the app and that stuff, then you should probably just have a job, because you're going to get to do a lot more of that and be more impactful probably. Whereas, because running a business and having a software company is about running a business, like, and there's all the other things that you do 100%. All day long that have nothing to do with coding at all, and oftentimes nothing to do with the product at all. And that's like a huge percentage of your time. And so if you're not into those parts, then probably not going to go too well, since that's, 80% of it, I would say, is sort of everything else. And when you start it, which I see so many people start, I think when you start, it's all about the code. It's like, well, we don't even have a product, so we got to get the product. But then once you have the product, you have to do everything else.
What you'll see is like when people struggle as like indie hackers, it's not usually like, I can't code this feature. It's like,
it's
I have no customers. Really. I don't know how to do sales. Like they have to come up with like these like motivation hacks, like marketing week, coding week, where like I have to alternate forcing myself to do something. And it's like, if you're having to struggle that hard, I don't know that it is like the right path, right?
Yeah. And so, but that's what people also get very down on co-founders and stuff. And I'm like, I don't really get that, even though I don't have a traditional co-founder, but it's like, I would have loved a traditional co-founder, because yeah, just having somebody else to like do the business stuff while I coded, or even vice versa. Like it's just so much better, I think. Obviously when it goes wrong, it's terrible and ugly, but
Yeah.
uh, that's a risk you're taking just by being in business on your own.
Right.
There's all kinds of risks too. You get hurt, you get sick, you get burned out, like, and you're
Yeah.
by yourself. And so there's nobody to pick up any slack when it goes
Right.
wrong there.
You
So,
know, you have to fire somebody. You have to,
right.
customers are not paying, an invoice or whatever. You have to pay. There's just all kinds of stuff that I think people would say like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. And I think in an indie hacking context, like the buck sort of stops with you. And so
Yeah.
uh, I think a lot of people just don't realize all the the unglamorous side of it, and they're just seeing the social mediaification version of it,
Right.
and thinking like, oh, if I'm not doing this, if I haven't launched my own business, then like I'm behind or I'm like failing as a developer. And so that's kind of the whole thing I hope people take away from this is like it's fine to do that, and the more people that can be visible about saying like this is a totally reasonable alternative path. Not everyone has to, be a Peter Levels or be an Elon Musk or, do this stuff to be successful and like have a good career and a good life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think people just talk about Peter Levels quick. I think people take like almost completely the wrong takeaway from him. Which is that he doesn't focus on the code at all, right? Like
Yeah.
so famously, right? He's like one PHP file is every app is a
Right.
single PHP, old school PHP file. And like he even the products, like he does tons of marketing around them, may not always be like traditional, but he is doing all these things. And he's also like working the other side of it in terms of like he keeps his costs low and he does things, he makes sacrifices on the other end. I'm not going to do all these certain types of things so that I don't have to hire people, which is not, I think actually is a bad trade-off there. But anyway, but yeah, so the point is he's okay not having the code be perfect and not being into the code per se, which is kind of the main point I would say of him there and why
Yeah.
part of his success.
Yeah. I
In
think
that
my
regard.
pitch would be if you're listening to these podcasts and you like the idea of like working on products and you're a developer, but you don't want to do that other stuff, like you should probably go work at an agency that builds products, because I think there you sort of will be able to just focus on the stuff that you like to do, which is, I would say for probably 80% of the people, it's just like writing the code and writing good code and doing things the right way and getting to use, the tools that you're interested in using. Like that is a great environment for that, where you will also get paid, a very nice wage and have a good, working environment.
Yeah. And nowadays you can actually be really productive on side projects too. It's like, like I had to quit my job when I started HubSpot because like you
Right.
couldn't build a product without working on it 60 hours a week. It was impossible. And so, but now it's like, yeah, I like boot up Laravel or Rails and it's like 2/3 of my project's done. Like all the hard
Yeah.
stuff's there. And now it's just business logic and, UI, which is hard, but it's still a different kind of hard than like I'm building the foundational elements of the authentication system and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's also like just another feasible thing. It's just like have
Yeah.
actual side projects, actually ship them, like which people get bogged down in that and don't actually ever ship their side
Well,
product, but like
and
ship
kind of
it and see what
know
happens.
like know what you're doing it for. Is it like because
Right.
I'm just interested in learning this thing, or just to get like the act of creating, or is it like, oh, do you actually want this to turn into a business? Because remember, like you said, that the code is low on the list of things that are going to determine the success.
Yeah, but that's where the side project is great because it can be just about the code.
Yeah.
It's not your money isn't depending on it. And then if it gets some traction and you want to lean into it, then you can start to pick up those other aspects and lean into it. If it starts to get some traction and you're like, like now, like I have to deal with taxes and I have to like figure out how to incorporate what, all this
Yeah.
stuff. Or customers are asking me for help and I don't really want to deal with this. Like I just want to like make the app and it'd be cool. Then there's a huge marketplace that you can just sell things like that other business people who want to then take something that's got a little traction will
Hmm.
buy it off you for a pretty good amount of money. And, whatever, if you make an extra 150 grand because your little side app, got to 5,000 MRR or whatever it is, right? Then great, that's awesome. So I think that's kind of, you can have your cake and eat it too a little bit nowadays, in that regard. But all right.
Jobs are good. Jobs are underrated.
Yeah, job. I mean, there's definitely many days I'm like, boy, a job.
W2,
Awesome.
hashtag W2 life.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't gone on a vacation without a laptop in 20 years. Like, and I'm not even the one responsible for the servers necessarily at this point, although I am, sort of a backup to that still. I'm not so big that I'm not in the loop a little bit there, but still, it's like I always have my laptop. I'm always thinking about it on some level, in some way. So yeah, it's definitely can be burdensome. All right, so we got a couple of little just fun things to maybe kind of wrap on here as we get towards the end. But this one I thought was funny. Should the government, to get us out of debt, sell ads on the penny? And I kind of like this idea, because in poker, many casinos on their chips, like every 50th chip has a little ad on it for either something that's going on at the casino or whatever. And it's the same exact thing. It would be very funny with the penny too, because these ads are always ancient. It's always like, oh, somebody's coming to play here 5 years ago or whatever, and like the chip just never goes out of rotation. But for certain businesses, they don't ever disappear. Like Apple could advertise on there and it would be good forever, right? So
I mean, the penny sort of famously costs more to produce than it's worth, right? It's like a penny costs like 3 cents to make or something, but it's only worth 1 cent. So, right there, you're already starting off in the hole if you're the government. So, I think, coins, they're definitely very durable. There's sort of there's a status to them, right? Like, if you're advertising on like metal, people have like those metal credit cards and it's like, oh, this is fancy, when, really is the cost compared to, a plastic one that much. So I don't know. And I think people collect coins. If you remember those state quarters, everyone was collecting all the state quarters.
Yeah, my son did that.
Yeah. So just imagine that every year there's a new merch drop, and it's hit the air horn, US Mint new drop this year.
What about, so that's on a big scale, but what about if it was more like you as a person or as a small business could do it? I'm be like, and there's just some minimum. It's like, okay, we don't let you buy more than 10,000 pennies, right? But it's a relatively low number. So for like $5,000, you can get your face or name or logo or whatever you want on 10,000 pennies. I think a lot of people would do that. I would totally do that.
This is kind of like a conference swag play then, right?
Right, yeah. But then they're out there being distributed, right? And it's like, hey.
And it's legal tender,
contest.
Right?
Yeah, it's legal tender. You could be like, hey, the first person to find a Landsman penny and return it to me, after a year gets X or whatever. Like that would be hysterical because there's only 10,000. They would be really hard to find. People would build websites, posting them and all that stuff. Like it would be pretty cool.
I wonder how with the paper money, you could just like write something on there, right? And it's still legal currency. So in theory, like you could write.
I've seen people do that.
You could stamp like a QR code or something on it, right?
I've seen that.
A little tougher with money.
Not much fun though.
Not as much fun.
It's not much fun. Like the coin is like you're a Roman emperor, right? It's like this is forever. Like this is going to be stamped forever on this coin. The paper money is gone.
I'm just thinking more of like the kind of the big corporate, right? Because it's like, okay, if McDonald's wants to be on the penny,
Microsoft,
like, Burger King, like they don't want you paying with McDonald's pennies at a Burger King, so it's going to kind of create like a bidding war. I think drive up the price.
Every McDonald's penny is worth 2 cents at an actual McDonald's. Like they could have little promos like that. That would be kind of fun. I think there's something to this. I'm sure the cost of like building the dies for actually producing custom pennies is probably not insignificant, but
well, they have all those smash penny machines, Have you seen these before? This is an old school tourist thing, right?
Like smash penny.
I figured you would. You seem to be of the target demographic.
Yep. The grays here.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe there's something there where you could
that destroys the penny.
Yeah.
Can I reshape
maybe you could
the
stamp
penny?
it? Do you know, is a penny, if you like put a hole through a penny, is that still legal tender?
I don't know.
Could this be like a laser cut? Could you laser cut a small thing into an existing penny, then
At
you don't have to.
what point can you mess with it enough like that? Like
Yeah.
if we clean the back totally flat and put Landsman on there, is it
Yeah.
still a penny or is it
I
not a
don't
penny
know.
anymore?
This is a good question.
I'm
And,
kind
you
of
know,
intrigued
and,
by that one.
and we're recording this, you know, the day before the US election. And so these are really the issues that,
So
that Americans should be focused on.
See now, Trump can get my vote if he says I could have a Landsman penny right there.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Was that bribery?
Give me a Landsman penny. Buy me off.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I do like that. I do like this concept. And if anybody out there knows, this would be a good, let us know if you know the answer to how much we can deform
What can
a
you
penny
do to a penny? Yeah.
before on our own here, before it's not a penny.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm sure every kid has heard that, like, as long as you have more than 50% of like a dollar bill, like it's still,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
and so obviously as a
know if
kid,
that's
you try to get it exactly 50% so you could, you know, create $2, but
Yeah, I think that's probably not true.
it's
But there
probably
is
not
some
true.
amount, right? Like if just the edge
Yeah.
is torn off, like that,
Yeah.
the main body is definitely still a bill. The little piece isn't the bill. I don't know. It's interesting. Who's going to accept this thing? Who takes money anymore? I mean, this is one
Exactly.
thing. When I just played poker
Get
the
rid
other
of the
day,
penny.
I was so excited when I got paid out and people were asking me about it. And I was like, this is the best part. Obviously, you're making, you know, when you win, it's good because you win, but it's also just like physical money. It's just like,
Yeah.
$100 bills in my hands. Like nowhere else in my life do I ever pay for anything with money. Like there's
Yeah.
no cash involved in any transactions anymore. And it's like, no, here it is, cash in your hand. So great. Just the smell, the touch, the whole thing. I love everything about it.
Yeah.
Definitely not a penny. I haven't had a penny in my pocket in a long time.
No one wants a penny. They'll just get thrown away.
This is how you keep the penny relevant.
I'm saying.
I like it. Make pennies great again. All right, what else we got here?
Well, I've brainstormed a bunch of concepts for Aaron, and I think since Aaron's not here, it's always good to tell him what he should be doing.
That's a good idea.
Since he can't fight back. So
yep.
So I know Aaron is now, he's trying to start a media company. He's all in on like, I'm a media company. So I said, okay.
He's a brand.
He's a brand. So I said, what are the long running evergreen TV, concepts? Like,
right.
what can Aaron just, yoink and twist, right?
Yeah.
Take that, put his little Aaron Francis twist on it, be off to the races, right?
Yeah.
So I did what everyone does these days. We start with, ChatGPT and, what are the longest running things? Soap operas, obviously very long and running. I don't know that that's a good fit for Aaron. And, we've got the JavaScript community covering, soap operas already. So
right.
There's Sesame Street and other kid shows. I don't know if there's
doing a kid's show, but probably
not really much of overlap. Okay. Yeah. So then you go to like SNL, and these kind of like skit shows. I think these are like pretty highly competitive right now on, YouTube and TikTok, and developer stuff. Not really that entertaining.
Oh.
I love the Krazam YouTube channel, but I don't think there are like a bunch of million,
don't know that
subs, tech comedy accounts.
But maybe there should be. Everybody loves Silicon Valley because that's like the only thing that's out there that's kind of focused on devs, even though I've said I never watched it. But I don't know, maybe there's a dev comedy angle out there.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to let Aaron decide if he thinks he's funny enough to be a tech comedian. Yeah. So then you get down to like Meet the Press and like these kind of like political shows. And so this is where I started thinking like, okay, maybe there's something here for Aaron. So like Meet the Press, they do like a one-on-one interview, and then there's kind of like a roundtable discussion with panelists. And so there's like, you could have like a pre-recorded component and a live component. So like Aaron could like interview somebody, and then he could bring on his rotating panel of people to sort of, give color and flavor to what he heard.
Yeah. I like
Meet the Press. What do we think?
But would it be actually political? I think there's
no.
See, I think it should be. I think there's a space in the market. I was talking to somebody else about this recently for an actual politics-oriented, developer-oriented show, like combining those two things.
Because a lot of the existing stuff doesn't sort of frame things for developers who are sort of a hard market to sort of sell to. Is that?
Well, I think that right now, I think the obvious thing is like, well, I'm not going to talk about politics if I'm talking about dev because like I don't want to alienate people and blah, blah. which is fine, and people want a reprieve from that because there's politics
But
elsewhere.
if you want to opt in, there's
But if you want to
nothing.
opt in, yeah, if you want to talk politics, if you want it to be mostly technical, but the mostly is political stuff instead of
So
woodworking,
yeah, it's
then
like
that could be
it's like
interesting.
the all in podcast, but with developers instead of business guys.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly. And look at that's the #1 podcast, and that thing is
Number one,
terrible. So there we
that's
go.
true.
We should be copying that. All right, so I
All
think
right,
that's a possibility with actual politics,
Okay.
which I don't. Aaron's not into talking
No,
about the actual politics, so I don't think that's going to work for Aaron. But
no,
maybe.
good there. Okay. British panel shows. Do you know about these?
No, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I'm American. I
It
don't know anything about what happens
Yeah,
anywhere else.
it's kind of a genre. There's like a show called Taskmaster where people do some challenges, and then but the format is basically like get comedians to like do something, and then like the comedians are sort of the entertainment because they sort of improv about what's happening. And
Okay.
I think maybe this is kind of like podcasts. But kind of along that same line, there's sort of like the NPR radio style things. There's like wait, don't tell me, which is like here's questions, and then people sort of give like kind of a funny answer. So this one, I think maybe there's something there, but I think you're depending on panelists being funny.
Yeah.
And
well, I don't mind that, but
it's hard.
Maybe that could
it would be
work.
hard for Aaron to buy into this because it's so dependent on other people, and he's sort of I think would want to have more of an influence on it.
Yeah, you're more like the host, where you're not really you're not in the mix as the host. You're kind of letting the other people riff. Yeah. Okay.
So we're no British panel show. Sports talk radio.
Yeah, we gotta do that. I just want to do that.
Period. Yeah. So there's there's a very long running show called Pardon the Interruption. There's 2 hosts.
I like that.
Time segments. There's like a little on-screen counter that sort of shows what's coming up next, so you know if you want to skip or not. There's recurring segments. Aaron kind of tried this already. He had his this week, next week,
2 episodes of that.
Yeah. I think this is probably the clearest path for Aaron because it's basically like the 2 guys talking podcast with some video production sprinkled on top. So
yeah, he tried to do that on his own, but I think it works better with multiple people. I think you need the like back and forth element to it, whereas if it's just like you by yourself, it's not quite as catchy. But
it definitely I think is like a good blueprint because if you just took the format exactly, it's like they do segments about sports that happened, and it's like there's a little timer, and it's like 60 seconds. Like we're going to talk about this for 60 seconds, and so you get a bunch of rapid fire stuff, and then you can chop that up, and then there's your TikToks, there's your
that's it. I want to do that. I want to have a mostly technical sports podcast, and I would just straight steal that format because that format's so good. There's so many things to cover in sports, and it's just like you're never gonna get to them all. So you break it up, and some of them you get 5 minutes, and some of them you get 30 seconds, and boom, 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 you fire through it. We gotta get Aaron watching sports. That's probably the phase 1 of this project, but
yes,
at some point.
I would definitely personally be interested in that too, just because I think there is a fun angle there of not necessarily the sports stuff, but like for instance, recently in the sports world, they like completely misscored this like basketball game, and they had the score wrong, the final score wrong, and so it's like all the sports people are just like, okay, whatever. Like it didn't change the outcome of the game, but like my developer brain is like, oh my gosh, like think about all the like downstream effects that this caused. Like every archive database of the scores like is now out of date, and like all the sports betting stuff that needs to get refunded. And, like, what's the infrastructure? I think there's something there. Maybe Aaron is not the man for it, but okay, I got a couple off the wall ones here. Home Shopping Network.
Oh, I want him on that.
So this could be Aaron doing like a continuous sort of like product demos, right? Like he could be exploring like open source tools, and you frame it as QVC Home Shopping Network type thing, basically infinite content. Now I did find there's one Twitter account that is kind of doing this, and we can put it in the notes, but it's basically this guy, and he just tweets like a screenshot of like a GitHub README and like a 1-sentence thing. And a lot of it is like around AI stuff, but it's like, hey, here's like an open source package that does this thing or whatever. Most of them are duds, but like some of these like pop off and get like 1 million impressions. So I think this one is more of an algorithm play.
I feel like it's got to be really closer to QVC. Like, I think the people need to pay to be on there, and it should be
Okay.
like Aaron's up there doing this, like, it's like the equivalent of live streaming, right? He's like,
Yeah.
so Aaron's up there doing a live stream. You can pay Aaron to get a 5-minute spot or 10 or whatever chunk where he's just selling your thing, and like, this is why it's awesome. No, you could go the more authentic route of like Aaron actually uses it and says what he likes and doesn't like, right? Which would be fine too.
But we know that these QVC people don't use and
No,
like the things they're
that's what
selling.
I'm saying.
So
They're just straight shilling, right? So I love the idea of Aaron just straight shilling. Like, I'm getting paid to do this, which he does. Like, we don't call it shilling, but he has videos that are paid videos sometimes, and he says that it's not a secret.
Just lean in. I think he could lean in. He could get he could get a retro one of those like long microphones that they had in like the 1970s,
dressing like as a 70s guy. I think it'd be awesome.
A very bad polyester suit. Yeah.
Oh, I think he bought a suit for the Laracon, being the Laracon coach there. He went out and bought a jacket or something. I think he said, or pants or something.
Now, would you have call-ins? Because a big part of these shopping channels is people have to call in and say, "I ordered this," and all the elders that are getting their credit cards drained need to call in. So what?
Hey, us devs are getting older here. We got the gray here. I'll call in.
Yes,
I like this idea. This might be my favorite one. Yeah, I love the idea of like a QVC, Aaron up there just hard shilling for like 2 hours. I love it. I'd watch that. I'd watch every minute of that.
Well, I don't think we're going to beat that one.
What happened there? All right, man. Well, this was great. It was really awesome of you to step up to the plate and fill in. Aaron's we didn't even mention this at the beginning, but he's off making sure he doesn't have any more twins. So we will get the update from him next week on how that went. But
hopefully we could provide an hour of entertainment for him while he is recovering.
Hopefully he's watching The Godfather, which is what he is supposed to be doing. So we will find out about that next week also. But yeah, so thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for listening. And we'll catch everybody next week. Obviously follow us, mostlytechnical.com, Mostly Tech Pod. Oh man, I don't have my little cheat sheet up. Mostly Tech Pod on Twitter. We got to get a blue sky too. And mostlytechnicalpodcast@gmail.com. Oh, just one little side thing here at the super end is that Trello now pops up a Jira ad in the middle. It's taking over a quarter of the screen. It's a corner pop-up thingy about Jira. I wonder if they're gonna get rid of Trello or something, and it's just like they're trying to pull everybody to Jira.
Yeah,
crazy.
Jira boards.
It's literally this huge ad for Jira. Anyway, all right, okay. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Matt. We will see you next week.